I had to write this bit to get it off my chest. I hope this is the right place to do this, as it is not resolved yet, so waiting might suffice too. Otherwise, I can remove it. My daughter of 13 is autistic with selective mutism. She can join regular school programs with a few adaptations. One of them is that she can keep her phone with her at all times, as she uses it to communicate through writing. If she can use her laptop, she will, but if not, she is allowed to use her cell phone because that is the fastest way for her. There are some conditions to it, like no social media and only actually using it if the teacher approves it. She has a copy of the form for this with all the conditions in her bag too. They assured us it would all be fine and that her agreed needs would be met. We were very happy with that because she loves it at regular education. She spent a brief time in special education and she grew very stressed there because everyone is too different. In regular education, she can see the logic in the people, as she puts it. Today they had an internet outage and she had to do some work on paper. Since her laptop wasn't used in class, she had her cell phone on her desk, as per the agreement. This led to the teacher taking it due to the school's no phones policy. My daughter tried writing it out that in stressful events, like her phone being taken, she can't speak, so she is allowed to have her phone with her to communicate. In her opinion, she was not using it. She had it on the table because her bag had to be in the classroom shelves and her clothes had no pockets, which is stated in the agreement to be fine. The teacher didn't believe it and said that he would check it in the student monitoring system once the internet started working again. Until he could check it, he would hold her phone in his desk. She could pick it up once the internet started working, and he could check it, or when she went home, she made a last attempt to write and sign. She learned sign language due to her mutism, to ask if she could grab her bag to show the form, but the teacher wasn't willing to budge. She let me know that he seemingly told her that if she wants to sign, she should go to a school for the deaf. Her solution to turn on her phone's Wi-Fi so he could access the internet and check also gained her some comments saying she should stop trying to know better. Throughout the day, he never wanted to take the time to look at the form. She still had classes, and there still was no internet, so he wasn't handing anything back. She couldn't go home, however, because my husband would pick her up after he got a message saying she had all of her classes for the day. It was a bit of a messy schedule, and she was not sure if she would be done at 2 or 3, so she would let him know. At 3:05, hubby didn't get a message yet, so he called her because she should have messaged him way earlier when she knew her schedule. She didn't pick up as the teacher still had her phone, so the military man in him woke up and he went straight to school to go find out what happened. He found her sitting outside the school where she had been after being done at 2, and she used his phone to explain what happened and how she had to do the entire day without a phone, and it stressed her out a lot. The stress also blocked her from finding another solution. And since it was her first week, she didn't have any people to go to. All her teachers are new as she switched from primary to secondary school, so she didn't know anyone, and teachers didn't know her. The only teacher we did speak to extensively happened to be home with a nasty cold, to add to the misfortune. Hubby went inside with her to collect her phone, but they found the teacher who took the phone had already left. The phone was still inside his desk, as they heard it ringing there when they went to look, and he called it. However, the desk was locked and none of the janitors had a key. Hubby was not happy. We have a parent-teacher talk planned for tomorrow with the teacher who took the phone, a school counselor, and one of the school directors. The story is what my daughter and hubby told me. I have yet to hear the school's side, but I had to write it down because my mind is overloading with emotions. I really understand that schools have rules, and misunderstandings over rules can occur. As this so far shows, at the root of any misunderstanding is a miscommunication. The mother in me is still very angry and a bit regretful, despite me also understanding that this is just that, a miscommunication that is caused by a larger chain of unlucky events. A similar event happened a few years back at her primary school. She was able to gather the courage to go back to class the next day because one of her two favorite teachers there helped her. Today she signed, "I hate school," while she usually spent extra hours at school because she loved it so much. Now for a few important comments. One commenter suggested consulting a lawyer because that's theft. OP responded, "Thank you for your time and thought. I am not sure where I stand legally, but I always like to see if things can be resolved rather than accused. The only thing I want to get out of it all is more understanding for my daughter, so she can get to room to grow into a good person. Regardless of legality, I don't think any lawyer or legal cases can open the doors we need to get there." Another commenter mentioned that if this is on her IEP or other education plan, the meeting needs to happen before the start of school and should be led by the special education coordinator. They expressed that this is very bad and advised looking at the state's education site to find out rights. They suggested the teacher needs to be disciplined and question the school's handling of medical needs like EpiPens. A retired special educator commented, "As a retired special educator, reading this really steams my clams. Really poor job by the school." OP replied, "The agreement about the phone was a first step in this, to bridge a gap towards a full plan. Unfortunately, we didn't get to have a meeting before school because of what I call desk politics. Her application didn't pass the needed desks, so we had to wait. It is planned for next week, so we had our fingers crossed for her classes to be smooth. Unfortunately, it didn't go as hoped. I hope there are solutions and understanding ahead of us, so my daughter doesn't have to worry about that, and she can turn her energy towards growing up." Another commenter expressed sympathy and requested an update after the meeting with the school, wanting to know the school's excuse beyond, "We're sorry this happened and it was a miscommunication." One commenter suggested making copies of the agreement and personally handing one to each teacher to prevent them from claiming they were never informed. OP responded, "I hope so too. Your suggestion is indeed one of the ideas we want to bring to the table tomorrow. I just hope that we have solutions and understanding ahead of us, so my daughter no longer has to worry." Another commenter shared their experience with teachers who think they have complete control over students and advised approaching calmly, presenting facts, and escalating if necessary. They were glad more than just the teacher was involved in the meeting. "I very much hope that no escalation is needed and that we only have positivity ahead of us, so my daughter can focus on learning and growing up to be a good person. I am a part-time teacher to adults who have faced trauma or difficulties that have left them without a grade, helping them get a level 1 grade so they can get jobs. So this hits me personally as well as professionally. Hopefully we get to help the teacher towards a better understanding." They had keys to the doors, but not to desks. Usually the locked drawer is to house items that shouldn't be accessible to anyone. And I think that's the reason why. It is my own thought, not a given reason. Knowing my hubby, he probably restrained himself to not escalate anything. Otherwise, a universal desk opener would have definitely been brought to the table/desk. I do very much agree. To me, this is a miscommunication due to a dysfunctional recipient. Knowing my little sender, she would have tried sending smoke signals if she thought it would have helped because she loves sending. Usually, there are plans for them, with regular meetings to see if the plans are accurate. Due to desk politics, the applications hadn't passed every needed desk in time. This meeting was set next week. The phone agreement was to bridge the gap in the hopes it would lead to proper understanding for the time being. There are probably liability strings we can pull, but I very much hope to avoid that. I prefer to find a solution together that presents the teacher with more understanding and my daughter with an eased heart, and leave this in the past as a how not to example. No legal actions can compare to the opportunity to find a solution through care. I love reading this. The people involved in her therapy are looking into signs that her mutism acts up, and they suggested looking into heart rate, so we hope it will give her another tool to use. The more they find, the more tools we can get to help her communicate that her symptoms are acting up. Anything that helps us get more understanding in the people around her is a blessing. I very much agree with you. I am only a part-time teacher myself, teaching adults who, due to trauma or disability, need a level 1 degree later in life to work. But my number one priority is to be a mentor in their growth. Their professional education is always second. No amount of knowledge can replace love and care for each other. That is indeed one of my questions. The only signed documentation is the phone agreement, but we are set to start a plan next week. Desk politics postponed that, and the current agreement was to bridge the gap. The form she carried with her was the signed documentation she could show at any time, but she unfortunately didn't get the chance. I hope tomorrow we can get solutions for problems that led to this, so my daughter can grow up in ease. I very much agree. I am a part-time teacher, and one of my students has to wear sunglasses due to a brain injury. The school rule is no sunglasses, no worries, she can wear them. My rule is to compliment every new pair she wears. She is doing better. She grabbed her precious plush turtle, hid in her large plush turtle shell, her safe space, and had one of our dogs as her guardian until she came out. He is not a support dog, but he did pick up on her signs and will do anything to help her calm down again. She joined us for dinner and was back to the little ball of enthusiasm we know, telling us all about her great day at school, which was a comfy ride in Daddy's car and a very fun class of chemistry, where a very funny teacher, her exact words, different teacher, made flames dance to music. We don't talk about the class after that one, and the rest of the day for now. Now for the update. Thank you all for taking the time to read my post and your messages. I apologize for not being able to reply to them all. My daughter returned to her cheerful self after getting some time alone. She started the day yesterday with a chemistry and physics class where the teacher, different teacher than the one who took her phone, entertained them with various demonstrations while the internet was down. She was mostly impressed by him letting flames dance to music. So it was not a fully negative day. We had a talk at school. The reasons given were a substitute teacher who wasn't fully informed on all kids, and they relied on the online systems to inform him. And as the internet failed, he had no way to know beforehand. He agreed he might have turned too much to rule enforcement and forgot that he was dealing with children. As for the phone, he mentioned he did look for her after her last class, but he couldn't find her. She was sitting outside at the time. He made the assumption she left, and thus he left the phone in the desk drawer for safekeeping. He mentioned that it might not have been the best solution. The school apologized and promised to work with us and our daughter to improve for future cases. First steps were made right away to aid communication between her and the teachers. My daughter wasn't present there at the time, but she did let me know that having her cell phone on the table was not a good idea. She should have given him the form first and then grabbed her phone. It is her first week of classes there too, in secondary school. And during her last year at primary school, she was very used to the teacher and other kids knowing about the phone, that she didn't think about it. She asked me this morning if I could apologize for that on her behalf, and she promised to show the form at every start of the class. A little misunderstanding I found in the comments was about her using the internet. She let me know that she didn't use her phone at the time. It was resting on her desk. She merely suggested sharing her phone's Wi-Fi to let the teacher check her file for the phone agreement. The counselor has given her a traffic light, basically a picto with one side green and a talking face on it, and on the other side red with a muted face. They have used the concept with students with anxiety before, for them to signal when they are okay and when they are overstimulated. It is a tool most teachers recognize, so she offered it for my daughter to try, which she happily accepted. My daughter was very happy with it and proudly mentioned at home that she spent the whole day on green today because she learned a lot and loved that. Monday, she will have an appointment to build a more extensive plan. I forgot to mention about his comment towards my daughter's sign language. He agreed it was very insensitive and said that he spoke without thought, as he thought that she was pretending sign to mock the silence rule. The director was not happy about the comment and very much understood our frustration. The teacher and director apologized. Am I the idiot for refusing to bake a wedding cake for someone who didn't invite me to their wedding. I would appreciate any advice or suggestions on how to approach this situation. I'll change the names of those involved. I have a group of friends, though not all of them are truly close to me. Most of them are more friends by association, but we all go out together and have a good time. I do consider Mady and Jessie to be real friends. For Mady's birthday, I got her a cake. Jessie had a small civil wedding, and Mady offered to bring wine for the celebration at her place, while I offered to bring a cake. There's a girl in the group named Carly, and my relationship with her is neither friendly nor unfriendly. She's always shown some apathy towards me, and I know she doesn't really like me. I don't dislike her, but I get the sense we wouldn't be friends since we have different perspectives. During the celebration, Carly commented that she liked the cake, and Jessie mentioned that I had brought it. Carly said it was good, but that it tasted a bit dry. Everyone exchanged looks and changed the subject, but Carly kept talking about the cake. I didn't say anything about it. Carly had been planning her wedding before Jessie got married. She used to invite Mady, Jessie, and other girls to discuss prices and ask for opinions on things, but she never asked me for my help or advice. I had assumed I wasn't going to be invited. Everyone else got an invitation, and I wasn't surprised when I didn't receive one. Jessie wanted to talk to Carly about it, but I asked her not to, as I didn't want a pity invitation and understood that Carly wouldn't invite me because we're not friends. Jessie told me she wouldn't attend if it would make me feel bad, but I told her not to worry about it. Then, Carly messaged me on WhatsApp to ask about cake designs and filling options. I thought she already had that figured out since her wedding was coming up and she'd been planning it for a while. I sent her the catalog and she commented on a few options she liked. She asked if I did the setup, to which I replied yes, and sent her some example photos. She only reacted to the photos with a thumbs up, and we didn't talk any further. She didn't ask for a quote or schedule a consultation, so I assumed she wasn't interested in my service. This was over a month ago. Today, we went out to eat and everyone was talking about the wedding. Her fiancé asked who I'd be bringing. I'm single, so I told him I wouldn't be attending. He asked why, and to keep the mood light and avoid drama, I mentioned I'd be traveling to visit my parents. He understood, but Carly asked me when I was leaving. I told her I'd be leaving on Wednesday, and she said, "The wedding's on Saturday. How are you going to set up the cake and desserts?" I asked which cake she was referring to, and she replied, "The one you're bringing to my wedding." I told her we didn't have anything scheduled, and she insisted she had our messages. I clarified that I had only given her options and set up photos, and since she didn't follow up, I assumed she wasn't interested. Her fiancé asked if anything could be done about it. I explained that the bakery requires a contract and a deposit. Mady asked if Carly had paid a deposit or requested a contract. Carly replied, asking why she would need to, since it was my wedding gift to her and that I should make sure she had her cake for Saturday. I explained that I don't handle the bakery's schedule and that with the wedding so close, they wouldn't accept a new order. Carly seemed upset and looked very uncomfortable. I asked for my bill, paid, and said goodbye, saying I needed to go. I really don't want to lose my friendship with the group, since I'm not from this city, and I've felt comfortable with them. I don't want this to create tension, but I also don't know how to handle conflicts. I know it's a bit sad that I can't stand up for myself and would rather avoid confrontation. Mady told me that after I left, Carly said it wasn't fair for me to back out after agreeing, and some people in the group hinted that maybe I didn't want to go to the wedding because I didn't want to give her the cake. Jessie said I wasn't invited, and Carly replied that she had invited me. Now for a few comments. One commenter said, "It's not okay for her to expect a gift, especially a big cake, from someone she didn't even invite to her wedding. You were right to tell her you hadn't agreed to make the cake. It makes sense that you wouldn't want to give something so big to someone who doesn't seem to like you very much." To which OP replied, "And especially for me to give her that gift when we don't even have a relationship." Another commenter suggested, "It sounds like Carly is trying to control the narrative, so it might be best to explain things to your group. including copies of your correspondence. Otherwise, you might lose a few friends who are listening to Carly. Maybe even let her fiancé know. OP responded, "Yes, they are really more friends. I've been dealing with them for 2 years, and they are high school friends." Now for the update. I read a comment that this is how updates are done here. I hope those who gave me advice and asked for an update can see this. To those who asked why I didn't stand up for myself and let things get so out of hand, as I mentioned before, I don't like confronting people. I get nervous, feel like I can't breathe. When I had presentations in school, I used to throw up before and after each one. Sometimes, I've even kept items I didn't order or didn't want, just because I was too embarrassed to exchange them. I've been in therapy, and thanks to that, I'm now able to work as a cashier in a bakery. I don't think I could have done that before. I've come a long way, but I still get nervous speaking in public. I have a younger sister, and she used to go everywhere with me. I'd give her the money, and she would pay, because just talking to the cashier would leave me breathless. I know people often feel sorry for those who seem weak, and I don't want to be seen that way or treated condescendingly. Someone sent me a private message asking our ages. I'm 21, Mady is 30, Carly is 30, Anna is 31, Carly's fiancé is 31, Jesse is 30. I hope that helps clarify a bit more. Now here's what happened next. Someone suggested what I could say to Carly, and I sent it to her. She replied saying she thought I wouldn't mind and that I owed her a gift anyway, and she'd chosen the cake as her gift. I replied that only guests are responsible for giving gifts. She asked what I meant, and I clarified that she hadn't invited me to the wedding. She left me on read. I messaged her fiancé something like, "I don't want to cause drama or any misunderstandings, but I didn't commit to giving her the wedding cake." I sent him screenshots of our conversation, and he called me right away. He apologized and said he thought it was odd when Carly told him I had offered to give her the cake. I mentioned it seemed even stranger to me since I wasn't even invited. He asked if I was serious, and I told him yes, but that I wasn't upset and understood if it was something private. He apologized again, and we ended the call. Around noon, Carly messaged me saying I was making a fuss over nothing, as if I couldn't just give her the damn cake. She didn't understand why I was being so sensitive, saying I'd given Mady a cake and Jesse one as well, and asked me to explain why I couldn't do the same for her. I replied that Mady's cake was a birthday cake, and although Jesse's was for her wedding, it wasn't a wedding cake. Carly answered that it didn't matter what the cake was for. I told her if that was the case, she could buy one from the supermarket. She started typing, but I blocked her before the message came through. Then, Carly sent a message to the group with only the part where I told her to buy it at the supermarket, saying it was insulting and showed how little I valued her wedding, so no one could say she was the bad one. I responded to the group with a suggestion someone gave me in a comment, which I adapted a bit. "Hey everyone, I want to clear up some confusion and rumors. I won't be attending the wedding because I didn't receive an invitation. I understood and made other plans for that time since the rest of you were invited. I'm not hurt or upset. It is what it is. The confusion about the cake is as baffling to me as it is to you. I only provided information on models and fillings from the place where I work, and that's all. I don't understand why it's expected that I cover a cake for a wedding I'm not invited to. It's true I suggested the supermarket, as she said the purpose of the cake didn't matter. I hope this clears everything up. I wish you all a wonderful time celebrating Carly and her fiancé. Congratulations in advance to the happy couple, and I hope those not involved don't feel caught in the middle." I posted screenshots where she reacted with a thumbs up when I sent the samples, along with all the conversations from that day and today. After a while, someone commented that the group wasn't meant for this kind of drama and that we should resolve it privately. Mady jumped in and said, "Carly demanded the cake in public, so it's only fair that everything is explained publicly." Another girl, let's call her Anna, commented that's not the way to ask for a gift. Carly saw everything and sent a voice note saying she didn't know a simple cake would ruin my finances, but that it was fine and that I shouldn't have shared everything in the chat. Then, She sent a second message saying that when I get married and don't have friends who can help me out with things from their jobs, I'll understand what it's like to be without support. A guy replied tagging her, "You didn't invite her?" Carly responded saying she had sent the invitation. Another guy asked, "Do you have the confirmation?" There was no reply. Carly, "No, but she should have told me when she saw she didn't get the invite." Jessie replied that she didn't like Carly's attitude, that she even considered not going and would only attend for the fiancé's sake. Carly then said, "So no one says I didn't invite you. Everyone can see here I'm inviting you now. I'll send an electronic invite since there's no point in printing one now." I replied not to bother, as I already had plans. Carly replied, "There you all see." Then, someone who hadn't spoken left the group. Now for a few important comments. One commenter asked, "Since you blocked her, how were you still receiving her text messages in the group?" I replied I panicked and unblocked her again. I knew she wouldn't stay quiet, and that's when she posted in the group. Then she messaged me privately again. I haven't replied to her privately anymore. When asked if she knows the fiancé will leave Carly for what she has done, I said, "I don't think he'll leave her. They've been dating since college, and he's very much in love." Regarding the wedding cake details Carly told me about, and how she expected me to be able to whip the cake on such short notice, I explained. I was thinking about all the types of fillings she mentioned. Some of them can't even be used together in the same cake. Also, cakes are priced by the pound or by the number of guests, but I don't know how many guests she will have. How was I supposed to assemble a cake without knowing what type of supports I would use? I don't know what kind of decorations she already has, and the supports, cylinders, tables, and trays are priced separately. If she had made a contract, I wouldn't be the only person she had talked to. I don't understand how she could take so many things for granted. The wedding is on Saturday, and I found out about it on Sunday. If I hadn't gone out with them, how was I supposed to find out about it? If I had agreed on Sunday, I wouldn't have been able to have it ready for that day. Am I the idiot for leaving my husband after he accused me of cheating while he was the one sneaking around? I'll get straight into it. For some reason recently, he's started to think I'm messaging and meeting other men. I'm not. I've never messaged anyone since the day of our first date, and I've certainly not met anyone. I don't know where this has come from. We have each other's passcodes for our phones, but I've never once felt the need to look at his, and I don't mind him using mine. But reading my messages, I do mind, as I don't think it's fair on the people I'm talking to. On to what happened. I went to the shops the other day and I left my phone at home. When I got back, my husband got in my face and called me a slag and a tramp and all sorts of other nasty names. He went through my Facebook messages and found a message from 16 years ago. At the time, I was so poor, having just lost my job and having bills to pay. I applied for hundreds of jobs and needed my car to get to interviews. It broke down. Not terribly, but it needed a new alternator. I messaged a couple of friends who were mechanics and both wanted over 100 pounds, which was a good quote, but I just couldn't afford it. I offered one of them I'd send him a couple of nudes for now and pay him when I got a job. He agreed, and within a day, I was back on the road. Once I had a job, I offered to pay him, and everything was fine. The mechanic is sadly dead now, so my husband has nothing to be wary of. After he had finished ranting and raving at me, I told him I'll never forgive him for looking through my phone and invading my privacy. I asked if he'd found anything else, and he said no. I said, "See, how many times do I have to tell you? In fact, I'm done telling you." I picked a few things, and I left for my sister's, where I still am now. Is what I did 10 years before I met him really that bad? I'm starting to think he's projecting with all these accusations constantly, and now I'm starting to doubt him. Once trust has been broken like this, can it be repaired? Now for a few comments. One commenter questioned why she had messages from years before meeting her husband, suggesting it was suspicious. She replied, "I've still got Facebook messages dating back to 2007. Why would I delete them?" Another commenter said they'd be more upset with the name-calling than the snooping and suggested he might be cheating. She responded, I was upset about it all, to be honest. I've said a few times, is he projecting? When asked why he was so sure she was cheating, she agreed, "That's what I think too." A commenter asked if her husband would have anything to worry about if the mechanic wasn't dead. She replied, "No, he wouldn't have anything to worry about. I just meant it makes even less sense why he is so mad." Another commenter stated she was right to leave, and she replied, "I don't think I can take him back. I'm too angry at his actions." Now for the almost 1 month update. Backstory. For months, my husband has been suspicious that I'm cheating, even though I've never even messaged another man since before our first date. He snooped on my phone and found a message from 16 years ago, so 10 years before we got together, where I was short of money, so sent a mechanic some nudes in lieu of payment for supplying and fitting an alternator. He called me all sorts of names, and I got mad back and said I'll never trust him and I think he's projecting. On to the update, and like many of you suggested, he was projecting and he's the one who's cheating. I left for my sister's for a few days when I wrote that post. Driving past a Premier Inn near her house, I saw his car outside, waited by it for 3 hours, where he eventually emerged with another woman. He said it was the first time and he thought we'd split up. She said to him, "What are you talking about? And who is this?" referring to me. He literally ran off like a coward. I spoke to this woman, who turned out to be lovely, and she said they'd been seeing each other for over a year, but he told her he was living with his religious parents after leaving his wife, so that's why they can never go back to his, and got hotels. She was such a lovely young woman, and I ended up having to console her and took her home myself. As for us, I'm back at home, and he is now back at his parents, who were very disappointed in him when they heard the news and have been lovely to me. I've started divorce proceedings, but that'll be about a year away, I'd imagine. Now for some comments on the update. A commenter noted it was nice of her to console the other woman and advised her to tend to her own emotions. She responded, "To be honest, I was already 80% certain I was going to divorce him after the name-calling and snooping, so this didn't devastate me as much as it normally would." Another commenter suggested asking his lover to testify in the divorce proceedings. She replied, "We won't need to go to court, hopefully, if he just accepts the divorce." Someone remarked on the irony of him claiming to stay with his parents and now actually doing so. She replied, "Yep, it's like he willed it into happening, lol." Finally, a commenter expressed disbelief at the coincidence of finding him at the inn. She clarified, "Not right by, maybe 2 miles away." When another commenter hoped his parents knew about him abandoning the other woman, she said, "I told them he abandoned a 23-year-old 30 miles from her home."